The Baikal single shot shotgun. Let's review it right now. Every time I put out a adventure video where I take out this particular shotgun, I get tons of questions about it. I've also received multiple requests to do a full video on this shotgun, so we're going to do that today. The Baikal single shot break action shotgun. Let's put this down on the bench. I'm going to go over this gun because it is quite interesting. As simple as a break action shotgun is, this particular model, this Russian shotgun, is actually packed full of features. Let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, let's dive right into this. Beautiful piece right off the bat. It is pleasing to the eye. Wood stock, not synthetic, which is something I prefer. I'm a little bit old school in my ways, but the first thing I want to point out, many of you will notice, is the combination of materials. We have blued steel, stainless steel, and even a little bit of brass on the trigger. And the combination of these materials actually does work well. The release is also stainless steel. And when I say release, let's go right into what is missing right here, which is a hammer. So this is a hammerless design. They call it hammerless because there's no exposed hammer. Of course, there is a hammer. The hammer is internal to the mechanism that's inside this whole breech block. Now, the safety is a cross bolt safety. It has a red line and it has a groove. And that groove, you see, I'm catching it with my thumbnail, and that's exactly what it's designed to do. So when you're out in the field and you're using this, if you're holding the gun in your hand and you're not sure, if you want to verify whether your safety is on and or off, if you push on that safety button and you're not sure if you got your safety on, you can reach underneath with your thumbnail. As you're looking at your environment, you can go underneath and you feel for that groove. You groove it. If you can catch that groove in your thumbnail, you know your safety's off, and you can put it back to safety on, or however your situation is like if you're getting ready to take a shot. So now on top of the gun, you'll see there is a little button. First of all, let's clear the gun. All right, we're happy it's cleared. I'm going to take safety off, and I'm going to pull the trigger, and you saw that button disappear. When you pull the hammer back, you have an indicator that comes out. So very quickly you can look down, you know if the hammer is cocked or not. Now the furniture on this gun is actually quite nice, but I don't believe it to be a walnut. It does not look walnut to me. I'm not an expert in the field, but I don't know what Russia is using. I don't even know. I'm kind of doubtful that there's even walnut in Russia, so I'm not sure what they're using in their country, but it is a nice wood. I love the color of the finish. It had a satin finish originally, and when I say had is because much of the finish has been rubbed off from years of use. I've been shooting this gun for 20 plus years, so this is a 20 plus year review on this gun here. Literally, it's excellent. I love it. Let's take it apart. I'll show you how that is done. So on the underside, you'll see there is a lever. You simply pull up on this lever, and then the forearm comes right off. Everything's well made. There are no plastic parts in here whatsoever. Nice beefy screws everywhere. It really is made robust. I like this gun for that. I don't particularly baby this gun. I use it for what it is, a very utilitarian kind of firearm, single shot, chambered in 12 gauge. I'm not sure if I mentioned that already. It's chambered in 12 gauge. I would imagine it's available in multiple calibers. I'm not well versed in Russian shotguns. I can only speak for the one that I have, this one right here. Now, once the forearm is removed, as you would expect, I will depress the lever to open the gun, and it simply falls apart just like that. Very simple design. There's the barrel. It has a vented barrel, vented rib. A nice feature to have, the vented rib. However, I'm not so sure it's really necessary on a single shot. If you're not familiar with the idea behind that, this is not aesthetics. This here removes the blur that occurs on top of your barrel from the heat from repetitive shooting. So for my use, I use this for small game. I love grouse hunting. And the idea that I'm going to shoot repeatedly, like say a dozen shots, is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, I would imagine if I was shooting clay, yeah, I can agree that that would be helpful. You typically see this with pump action and semi-automatic shotguns. Not typical to see that on a single shot, but it certainly is nice to have. It doesn't hurt nothing to have it. Here's the barrel to the other shotgun that I have on the table. Nice and smooth. There's nothing, no rib, no nothing, very plain, and that function is great for me. I'm going to point out something else about this barrel. I'm going to point out a few things, and as you can tell right here, I'm going to roll it, and we'll see if you can pick up what I'm going to point out next. And that is, there are no markings on the barrel. There's nothing stamped on the barrel indicating what it is, what caliber it is, what it can shoot. There's nothing. I find that very, very peculiar. At least here in North America, and I'm pretty sure across Europe, when you grab a gun of any kind and you look at the barrel, at the breech area, you will have all the information, serial numbers, everything. Now there is some serial numbers stamped on the back side. However, there's nothing to indicate what caliber it is. And this particular shotgun is a 12 gauge, and it only accepts 2 3/4. It will not take a 3-inch. So I find that a little bit peculiar. I'm not used to that. The other thing I'm going to point out about this barrel is, you look at the muzzle. Another great feature to have, and it's this right here. Yeah, this gun comes with choke tubes. You have 2 choke tubes and a wrench. I have the choke tube removed there right now. So simply insert the threaded part in first. Thread it all the way as far as I can go with my fingers. Put the spanner wrench in. And finish it off. and you don't want to crank this down tight. Quite literally, once you have made contact, just get a little twist. That's it. There is no need to crank down on that. That choke tube will never get out of there on its own. All right, so that covers that for the barrel, and I'm going to show you another thing. Is this right here? You may think that this is part of the mechanism that locks it onto the gun, but it's not. Let me show you what that does. To reinstall the forearm stock, pull back on the lever, squeeze down, let it go, and then make sure the lever is pushed all the way down, and now it's locked in. Okay, so there's two positions to this. So what happens with that is I have an option. When you're using this firearm and you pull the trigger, you take a shot, and you open it. You hear that click? Well, that's the ejector throwing the spent shell out. When I close it, if I pull that lever back and then I open it, you notice how there was no click? That's because my round that's in here is not going to get tossed out. I have to physically grab it and pull it out. Great little feature to have. So if you are hunting, and in that case of, say, I come across 2, 3, 4 grouse all clustered up, and I take a shot and I want to do multiple rounds, the odds are I'm going to do multiple rounds. I would want my spent casings to come out rapidly so I can reload rapidly. But let's say I shoot one, or I haven't shot and it's time to unload the gun. I can pull that button back, open the gun, and then I could take my shell out, put it back in my pocket. Great, I have that option. I don't have to go chasing after it on the ground. All right, and the next thing I'm going to point out, sling. I don't use a sling. I've never been one to use a sling on a shotgun, but the option is there. This gun came ready with sling mounts. May not mean much, but if you like having a sling, well, it's done for you. Nice little feature to have. Doesn't hurt to have it on there, even though I don't particularly use it. Now, the buttstock, the pad is very generous, and it's very, very squishy. And boy, I tell you, depending what you're firing out of this thing kicks like a mule. And having that really extra squishy pad, excellent. Excellent butt pad. Something I want to touch about this particular style of shotgun being the hammerless. Some people think that it is impossible to release the hammer on these. And you can and you should. You should never store your gun with the hammer pulled back, simply because over time you're going to weaken the spring. When the spring is under load all the time, eventually it's going to weaken that spring. So you should be putting it away with the hammer released, and there is a way of doing so. Let me show you right now what that is. So the hammer is pulled back. You can tell by the indicator. So by simply holding the lever down and pull the trigger back and then releasing the lever, I have now essentially released the hammer. You have done the same thing as if you were to pull the hammer back like that, and you hold the hammer and pull the trigger and let go. That is exactly what I have done here. That's how you drop the hammer on one of these. Let's talk about pros and cons. The Pro, this is an excellent shotgun. And if you come across one of these on the consignment rack or something like that, as long as it's in functioning order, buy it. Plain and simple. The con is this lever. This lever has a bit of a sharp edge, and every once in a while, I catch myself, I'll be shooting around that's maybe a little bit got more oomph to it or something like that, and I'm not holding the stock. I don't have a firm enough grip on this stock, and the recoil will cause that lever to cut me right in between the fingers. When I'm like this, and the gun kicks back, that lever will sometimes cut my finger. The edge should be smoothened down. I've never done it. I've always meant to do it. Maybe I'll do it today after all these years. But a bit of a shot with a file just to remove the edge would make a big, big difference on that. That's the only con about this particular firearm. Now, for the functionality of this gun, after all of these years of use, the only thing that I can come up with, because this gun has never failed, ever, ever, ever. However, I do know that I did notice that my crossbolt safety doesn't, the detent on the crossbolt safety is not as snappy as it used to be. Literally after 20 or 20 plus years of use, that's the only thing I can come up with for this gun as far as something going wrong with it, because it's never failed. It's always just produced. It's always delivered the way you would expect a shotgun to deliver. And yeah, that's the only thing I can come up with, is that crossbolt safety simply does not have a snappy detent like it used to. Pretty impressive. And I've used this thing extensively. This is my number one go-to firearm when I'm out small game hunting. And yeah, it's excellent. Open Air Outdoors is not a gun channel, but it is very much an outdoorsman's lifestyle channel. And if you'd like to see some of my outdoor adventures, click on my Everything Outdoors playlist card that you see on the screen right now, and I'll see you over there.